You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back to the program. I'm joined now by Senator Jonathan Dismang. He's the chair of the Joint Budget Committee.
Sir.
Republican of Beebe or Searcy. We're never really sure where he's from, but you can pick
White
and
County.
choose. So White County, there we go. He's also on the Revenue and Tax Committee, so he carries a little bit of a big stick when it comes to budget matters, and that's what you're here for today.
Okay.
All right, we're going to go. First of all, I want you to tell me the session seems off to a pretty slow start, except for the fact that you're moving appropriations bills through, which we're all grateful for, by the way. But why do you think the other issues in this session have been as slow to start as it?
Well, I think administration's been pretty clear. There's three things that they want to focus on, and that's K through 12 education. They're also wanting to focus on prison reform or parole reform, and then lastly, tax cuts. All of those things impact the budget. Until we know the specific, it's really hard to know, where the other pieces are going to fall. So I think that's what you're seeing. And also it's just the fact that we've got a new governor, a lot of new members, and everybody's trying to kind of feel their way through. Now, I would say the governor has been very active with what she's doing. She's following through with some campaign promises she's made, and I don't think that should surprise anyone.
Yeah. But you think the pace obviously picks up, but I mean,
Absolutely.
are we gonna at the end of the session, do you think we're gonna say, oh yeah, we were drinking from a fire hose like we normally do? Because it does not, it feels like we're drinking from a dripping faucet right now. So.
Again, I mean, it usually it starts out slow. I think a new administration really contributes to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're going to pick things up, and we'll all be wishing for the days that things are moving a little slower.
Yes, no, I agree with you. Those days are coming. So, all right, I'm going to go I want floor to ceiling here, okay? Because you're the numbers guy, you know budget. This is the biggest thing you guys are down here to do. Education, the Senate and the House do have numbers from adequacy, their adequacy studies, and they're different. What do you think we're going to be looking at spending in the education realm when you factor in the fact that Governor Sanders wants to do some new initiatives? Is she going to pull that money from things that exist in the existing budget already for education, or do you think we're looking at some funding from somewhere else that's going to complement that?
Probably a little bit of, all of the above. Again, I haven't seen the education plan, so I don't have any ballpark figures on what that's going to cost, what we're going to do. We do know that there's a portion that's going to be for increasing teacher pay. Again, that's going to have a direct impact. But again, I have no idea, if I'm just being transparent, or what that's going to look like. And that's why you see me being hesitant in regards to the budget.
What about on some of the, and look, I think this whole interview is going to be a hesitancy about specifics here, but the budget is such a big piece of what gets done up there, and a lot of these policy measures that are being discussed are going to have some big price tags.
That's right.
So let's move to prison reform, sentencing reform. If I were to factor in what everybody is talking about, 5,000 new prison beds, is that where you're going with some stuff?
But that's not going to have any impact currently on what we're doing, and I don't think it'll be 5,000. I mean, I've heard that rolled back to 3,000 to 3,500 and even 1,500. So again, until we get that package out and we know what we're going to need to do in regards to parole reform, I'm not sure we know the number of beds. But again, the immediate impact on the budget, there won't be any, because it's going to be a 5 to 6 year process to get a new prison constructed. What we will have an immediate budget impact is if we change the parole laws, there's still going to have to be a space for these folks to go. And again, I haven't seen what that plan looks like, but that would be your immediate cost.
How do you get numbers on that, though? How do you feel like the data that you're getting in terms of, like, let's say, the sentencing goes from, let's just say right now, they're getting out after 15% of their time. We're going to change that to 85% of their time. That's a big number.
Right.
That's a calculating number to get to.
Right.
But nobody can tell me how many people are in that universe that might be going to 15 to 85, and you need that number to be able to budget for it. How are you going to get that type of detail?
I mean, hopefully we're getting that from the administration and from the members that are putting forward, these efforts. But at this point, I know they rely on some federal data, and then there's some behavior change that's being anticipated too, and how does that impact that number? I mean, obviously, if you're changing the parole laws, you're doing it hoping that you're going to change a behavior. And that, like I said, I think that calculation typically comes from federal data that's been collected.
All right, on healthcare, there are some known quantities. You know that there's going to be this unraveling of continuous enrollment.
Right.
That's going to stop sometime in the first quarter to half of this year, more than likely. That's a big number too, and we're going to lose some federal matching dollars as a result of that. Do you feel like you got a good calculus on what that is right now?
No, not at this point. And because mainly we've been waiting, we've said for a while now that that's about to unravel, and it's still yet to unravel. So, who's packaged up into that and what that looks like, we do not know. We do know we have good reserves in place. And so we'll be able to withstand some of the change on the immediate, and then as this administration works forward, what is the long-term plan?
Right. But I've been in some of those budget hearings, though, and you have asked administration officials in the previous administration, for sure. Maybe, I don't know if you have in the current one, but there's obviously some overlap there.
That's right.
They've given you, have they answered the questions that you've asked so far about where that, how much of that federal money is out there and waiting, and what we may be looking at having to pick up on the state tab?
Not at this point.
Not at this point. All right. When are you going to get angry about that?
I don't get angry.
When are you going to get adamant about that?
Right. No, we're going to start pushing things. I mean, we have to, because we're going to get at a point, even in this administration, and one of the things we'd be waiting on is what does their balanced budget look like? Of course, the legislative branch is going to want to have a say in the final outcome of that, but we'll have a better idea of what's happening, what they're seeing, what they're expecting, what they're telling their secretaries when we get that balanced budget.
All right, Medicaid expansion is the other kind of critical component of this. Right now, the feds pick up 90% of the tab on everything that falls into that Medicaid expansion program right there. Do you have assurances from the administration that that's going to be a continuing program, or are you still up in the air about that too? You're hesitant on everything today.
No, I mean, on that one, I don't think we should be hesitant. We have worked through that repeatedly over the years, and I think at this point we've moved past it. Of course, I haven't had a conversation with anyone that's looking to make major changes in this session. I think it would be a mistake too, just because of everything else that we've got going on. But again, I would be shocked if that's something that we want to push in the midst of these other big three items that we're trying to contend with.
Which is many new members as there are, both in the Senate and the House. I want to say there's 47 maybe new members out of the 135 legislature. 135 member legislature. Are you, and do you feel like, have you had any conversations with any of them about, this is a 75% threshold. This takes a lot more than just the regular 50% plus one push.
Right, that, and also, I mean, I would also tell the minority can't control an appropriation either. We kind of proved that out with Governor Hutchinson when he had a line item veto an appropriation. So we have had those discussions, and I've tried to inject a number of our new members into the budget process. If you'll see, they're either vice chairs or in some that were coming from the House, chairing some of our subcommittees and budget so that they're getting acclimated to how this works and really the process.
Tax cuts are going to come late because of all the other uncertainty that we've outlined with public safety, with education, and obviously with health care. Do you think there's still going to be room in this budget to do some sort of meaningful tax cut?
I do, but I think it'll be tied to triggers, making sure that we don't have to tap into, for instance, our catastrophic reserve fund. And so I think you'll see that built. I know that you're going to see that built into the budget. I think one of the questions
Who's going to make sure that happens? Well, are you kind of like the guy that's in charge of that or something?
Well, yeah, we're working through that drafting now. I mean, while it may come later into the session when we have a little bit more certainty, not just about this budget but also the economy, I think it's still appropriate to be in the drafting phase. So one of the things to consider is we're still building a sizable surplus. There are still plenty of federal dollars that's flowing through the economy. Do we need to look at trying to slow that down by advancing, for instance, a tax cut to the first of this actual calendar year? And that's some of the considerations that be made. And at this point, I think it's something that we should be doing.
Anything that's kind of on your pet project list of potential tax reform?
As far as me in particular, I'm going to focus on individual income taxes. I do believe that we should do some more for historical type tax credits, and so I'll be looking at that. Film industry also, in my mind, those items are tax credits or incentives that help stimulate business in the economy, help bring people to Arkansas, and are really revenue neutral. We need to put to the forefront, and we can start moving some of those items.
All right, I got under 2 minutes left. I'm going to take you off the budget hot seat, but I'm going to put you on a different hot seat now. So you're a big supporter of some of the education reform that Governor Sanders is pushing. I want you to explain to viewers how a potential, I'm going to call it a voucher system and call it parental rights or choice, whatever you want to do. How does the voucher system work? I don't think it takes any more money out of the actual education budget, but it moves money within school districts potentially.
It could.
If we do this per follow the student kind of model.
Well, and one of the things that most of us are waiting on, I think most all of us, except for maybe the sponsors, is what does that vehicle look like? You know, currently we have a scholarship type program that utilizes tax credits. Do we continue with that, you know, model, or again, you know, more just strictly a voucher that gets to follow the kids? I haven't seen it. I'm very, very interested, as you said.
What do you want?
Well, you know, at this point, I just think that we need to be. It's not my wheelhouse in some ways. It is and it's not. You know, we're you know, what I did was a small step. This is going to be looking to be making a huge step, is what I think. So I just want to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable, that it's actually going to be able to get kids in the situation that they need to be in, that parents are able to make those decisions, and again, place their kids in the best environment so they have the most likely to be successful.
All right. He is Senator Jonathan Dismang. He's the chairman of the Joint Budget Committee, and he's been on this show frequently, and we appreciate you always being willing to answer our questions, even when they're a little vague in their answers, but that it's understandable why they are. So
yeah, maybe we can be a little more succinct as we get later on.
You just keep me posted, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. We're back with more right after this word from our sponsors.